1 minute ago, Israeli missiles accidentally hit the North Korean embassy in Tehran. That's the claim. And I'm going to say this up front so you don't waste your attention. A headline like that is engineered to hijack your nervous system. It blends three things that go viral on contact: an accident, an embassy, and North Korea. Because if people believe it, even for 5 seconds, it instantly triggers the biggest word in geopolitics: escalation. So here's what you're getting in this video, and I'm going to keep it tight even though we're going long. You're getting a simple reality check on what's confirmed versus what's being claimed. You're getting the 3-step framework to judge embassy hit stories when you don't have perfect information. You're getting the 3 most likely paths this story takes from here: fake, partial, or real, and what to watch for in each. And I'll give you the mini payoff right now so you're not waiting for the point. The biggest mistake people make in moments like this is treating the first viral version as the final version. The first version is almost always optimized for reach, not accuracy. Now, before we go further, let me be careful with what I say. There is ongoing, heavily reported conflict activity involving strikes in and around Tehran, and that means the environment is real, chaotic, and information is moving fast. Major outlets have reported significant bombardment and escalation around Tehran in recent days. Al Jazeera. But this specific claim, Israeli missiles accidentally hit the North Korean embassy in Tehran, is not something I've seen confirmed by major, reliable, independent outlets in the way you'd want before you treat it as fact. What I am seeing is the kind of sensational content and low credibility posts that often ride on top of real conflict to manufacture the scariest possible twist. Al Americano Day. So instead of me telling you yes or no like a fortune teller, I'm going to show you how to evaluate it like someone who doesn't get played. Because here's the truth. Even if this specific story is false, the way it spreads teaches you something about the modern information battlefield. And if it's true, you'll want to understand what it means without panicking yourself into bad conclusions. All right? Now that you've gotten value, comment where you're watching from. City and state. Not because it changes the facts, because it shows how far fast narratives travel. Now let's separate 3 buckets, because this is the skill that makes you immune to breaking news manipulation. Bucket 1, confirmed facts. Bucket 2, plausible but unverified claims. Bucket 3, narrative packaging. Confirmed facts are things multiple credible sources agree happened. Plausible claims are things that could be true but aren't independently verified yet. Narrative packaging is the emotional wrapper designed to get you to share it. This embassy headline is a perfect example of narrative packaging. Accidentally hit makes it feel like incompetence. Embassy makes it feel illegal and explosive. North Korean makes it feel nuclear adjacent. That's not reporting. That's a psychological cocktail. Now let's talk about why embassy hit claims are uniquely viral. Because embassies are not just buildings. They're symbols. They're sovereign spaces in the public imagination. And even when the legal reality is more nuanced, the political impact is enormous. So when people hear an embassy was hit, their brain instantly leaps to diplomatic crisis, retaliation, wider war. And here's where the internet becomes dangerous. Most people can't tell the difference between these 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, the embassy itself was directly struck. Scenario 2, something nearby was struck and the embassy suffered collateral damage. Broken windows, debris, blast effects. Scenario 3, nothing happened at the embassy at all, and someone is attaching the embassy label to unrelated footage to upgrade the drama. Those 3 scenarios feel the same online. They are not the same in reality. So how do we figure out which one we're dealing with? Here's the 3-step framework. Step 1, who is making the claim? Step 2, what evidence is being shown? Step 3, what independent corroboration exists? Let's go through them. Who is making the claim? When a story like this appears first on anonymous accounts, sensational channels, or outlets that have a history of inventing dramatic just-in claims, your skepticism should increase immediately. Not because governments never lie, they do, but because the speed of the first claim is often inversely related to the quality of verification. In war, the first story is usually a weapon. It's a weapon to shape fear, confidence, and behavior. So the first question is always, who benefits from you believing this right now? If you believe Israel hit North Korea's embassy, who gains? The people who want outrage, the people who want chaos, the people who want the conflict to feel uncontrollable, the people who want you to share before you think. Now, step 2. What evidence is being shown? This is where most people get tricked, because they see a clip of smoke or a crater and they assume it proves the headline. It doesn't. A video of smoke proves smoke. It does not prove location. It does not prove target. It does not prove an embassy. It does not prove who launched what. So for a claim this specific, you need evidence that is also specific. You'd want geolocation, street patterns, building layout, verified coordinates, multiple angles. You'd want credible local reporting. You'd want official statements. You'd want independent confirmation. Otherwise, it's just footage plus a label, and labels are cheap. Now step 3, independent corroboration. This is the part that takes time, and it's why disciplined people often look late online. Credible reporting converges. Bad narratives mutate. That's one of the best rules you can learn. If the story is real, over the next hours you'll typically see multiple reputable outlets reporting consistent details, even if they disagree on some specifics. If the story is fake, it will keep changing. Different time, different building, different missile type, different sources, different dramatic add-ons. Now, before we talk about what this would mean if it were true, I want to make sure you understand the environment we're in. When conflict involves repeated waves, air defenses, drones, missiles, and strikes in cities, misinformation doesn't just exist, it thrives. Because real explosions create endless raw material for false captions. Old footage gets recycled. Unrelated damage gets relabeled. Photos get reposted with new locations, and people share it because it matches what they already fear. So let's do something practical. Here are the 3 fastest checks you can do in 60 seconds when you see an embassy hit headline. Check 1. Is there a statement from the country whose embassy was allegedly hit? Because if North Korea's embassy was hit, that is a massive propaganda opportunity for North Korea. They would likely want to control the narrative. They would want to condemn it. They would want to leverage it. Silence doesn't prove it didn't happen. But if there's no trace of official acknowledgement anywhere credible, that matters. Check 2. Is there a statement from the host country? If a foreign embassy is hit in Tehran, Iran has a strong incentive to publicize it if it serves their interests, or to manage it if it creates complications. Either way, you would expect some sign of diplomatic activity, not just random posts. Check 3. Are reputable international outlets treating it as confirmed or repeating it as an allegation? This matters. When major outlets report something, they typically phrase it carefully if it's unverified. Claimed, alleged, could not independently verify. If the story is being treated as flat fact only by loud social accounts, that's a red flag. Now let's talk about the word accidentally, because that's doing a lot of work too. Accidentally is a narrative trigger because it implies incompetence and chaos. But accident in conflict can mean different things. It can mean wrong target selection. It can mean a strike that drifted. It can mean intelligence error. It can mean a weapon malfunction. It can mean a strike on a nearby target with collateral effects. And sometimes accidentally is added by the internet to make the story juicier, even if nobody official said it was accidental. So you should treat accidentally as a claim inside the claim. Now let's assume for a moment the story is true, at least partially true, and talk about why people are so fixated on the North Korean embassy angle. Because North Korea isn't just another country. It's a symbol of nuclear risk. It's a symbol of isolation and unpredictability. And it has known relationships and cooperation allegations across multiple domains with other states over decades. So people instantly jump to, what if North Korea responds? But that's where you need to slow down. In geopolitics, direct military response is only one tool. More common responses can be diplomatic moves, propaganda escalation, intelligence cooperation, cyber activity, or shifts in posture. And even then, not every provocation becomes a direct response, because states choose responses based on interest, not emotion. The internet wants you to believe every event is a trigger that causes an instant chain reaction. Real states are colder than that. Now, why would an embassy strike, if real, matter so much? Because embassies are tied to international norms, and attacks on diplomatic facilities have historically carried serious consequences. Even when countries are already in conflict, hitting diplomatic premises can widen the political blast radius. It invites international condemnation. It triggers demands for accountability. It can complicate alliances and relationships. It can create pressure for retaliation, at least in messaging. And it can bring in actors who were previously staying on the edges. So yes, if it were confirmed that the North Korean embassy was directly hit, that's not just another strike. That's a separate category. But we have to respect the difference between confirmed and viral. Now I want to talk about the emotional trap built into this headline, because it's the exact trap that creates mass misperception. The trap is that people treat diplomatic incidents like they're binary. Either nothing happened or it's World War III. Reality is almost always a spectrum. A near miss, a nearby hit, collateral damage, a broken wall, a damaged annex, a shattered window line, a secondary blast effect, a fire next door. Those things can be real, serious, and politically sensitive without being the specific, direct hit on the embassy claim. So if you're trying to be accurate, don't let the headline force you into extremes. Now let's talk about why this specific story template keeps showing up. X accidentally hit Y embassy. Because it's a perfect misinformation template. It's hard to disprove immediately. Embassy locations can be obscure. Damage in cities can be widespread. Confirmation can take time. And in the gap, the story spreads. And once it spreads, people treat "I saw it everywhere" like it must be true. That is one of the most expensive mental mistakes you can make in the internet age. Popularity is not verification. Now, here's the part most people don't want to hear. In high-intensity conflict, misinformation is not just random. It can be strategic. It can be used to pressure decision-makers. It can be used to rally domestic support. It can be used to fracture international relationships. It can be used to bait responses. So when you see a story like North Korean embassy hit, you should consider that the story itself may be aimed at shaping behavior more than describing reality. Now let's move into the 3 likely paths this story takes from here, because this is what you should watch. Path 1. The claim fades. This is the most common outcome for viral embassy hit claims. You'll see the story peak, then the details get challenged, and suddenly accounts delete posts, pivot to "reports say," or move on to the next scary headline. If this happens, you'll know because there will be no credible corroboration, no consistent geolocation, and no official acknowledgement that survives scrutiny. Path 2. Partial truth. This is also common. Something real happened near an embassy district, or a diplomatic facility suffered some collateral damage, or debris struck nearby properties, and someone upgraded it into "the embassy was hit" because it's a better headline. If this is the path, you'll usually see careful phrasing emerge. Damage near, in the vicinity, blast effects, minor damage, no casualties. And you'll see officials focusing on the diplomatic aspect without confirming the sensational version. Path 3. Confirmed direct strike. This is the least common, but it's the one you take seriously if credible evidence appears. If it becomes confirmed, you'll likely see multiple major outlets converge, and you'll see clear statements from governments involved. You'll see diplomatic fallout quickly, summoning ambassadors, formal condemnations, demands for explanations, and pressure campaigns. Now, I want to be clear. Even if the direct strike becomes confirmed, it still doesn't automatically mean instant military retaliation by North Korea. It means the diplomatic and political arena heats up. It means the perception war intensifies. It means the conflict's political footprint expands. And it may mean increased risk of miscalculation, because more actors feel pressured to respond. Now, I want to give you the single most useful line to carry forward, because it explains why these stories feel so dangerous even before they're verified. In modern conflict, the information layer moves faster than the weapon layer, and the information layer can cause real-world consequences by shaping fear and pressure. So you should treat the information layer like a battlefield, because it is. Now, let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger pattern that makes embassy rumors so sticky. Cities under bombardment generate constant, confusing imagery. Even reputable outlets will sometimes report early details that get revised. That's not because everyone is lying. It's because early information is messy. And in that mess, bad actors thrive. They grab a clip, slap on the most inflammatory caption, and watch it spread. So if you want to be the person who doesn't get played, here's what you do. You refuse to emotionally commit to a claim until it passes a confirmation threshold. You don't say, "This happened." You say, "This is being claimed." And that one word, claimed, protects your credibility, because credibility is the currency you spend every time you share a breaking story. Spend it wisely. Now, I know some people will hear this and say, "So you're saying it didn't happen?" No. I'm saying I'm not going to treat it as fact without confirmation. That's not hesitation, that's discipline. And discipline matters more than speed if you actually care about being right. Now let's tie this back to what's happening in the region more broadly, because context matters. There has been heavy reporting of strikes in and around Tehran and major escalation, which creates the exact conditions where collateral damage and rumor both become more likely at the same time. Al Jazeera. That's why you might see damage in diplomatic neighborhoods. That's why you might see claims that a particular embassy was hit. But it's also why misinformation can piggyback on real chaos. So you have to be careful not to let "it's plausible" become "it's confirmed." Now I want to end with a quick "do this, not that" in plain English. Don't share the first clip you see with a dramatic caption. Do look for geolocation and multiple credible confirmations. Don't assume "I saw it everywhere" means true. Do assume, if it's real, credible reporting will converge. Don't let one sentence rewrite your worldview. Do let facts harden before you lock your belief. And here's the final point. Whether this specific story is fake, partial, or real, it reveals something important about the moment we're living in. The world is not just watching strikes. The world is watching narratives about strikes. And the narrative can inflame faster than the fire. So be the person who doesn't throw gasoline on a rumor. Now I want your take. Do you think stories like this are mostly misinformation riding on top of real conflict? Or do you think more diplomatic facilities are going to get caught in the spillover as the tempo rises? Drop your answer.